All right, we are live. Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday. Hope you're having an awesome day. Today's video is a live stream, so we're answering all your real estate related questions with Kristina Smallhorn. Welcome.
Hi. Hi.
Go ahead.
I want to say thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So I actually ran a poll on my channel and asked people, who do you want me to collab with? Your name came up by far the most. So I'm so glad you agreed to come on my channel this morning.
Well, that makes me feel good. People like me.
Yeah, they love you. It's awesome. So I guess the people who are not familiar with you, like, could you, tell us about yourself and your YouTube channel? Because for anyone who doesn't know, you have 127,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is absolutely blows my mind. So congrats on all your success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Kristina Smallhorn. I have a YouTube channel mostly talking about affordable housing options, but I also talk about the housing market and what it's doing now. I live in Louisiana, and I'm sorry because my internet might be a little wonky. We had a big hurricane that came through here in South Louisiana, and so our internet's been kind of unstable since that happened. So occasionally you might see me freeze. So hopefully, if anybody gets a good free shot in there, they can get a free. They can send it to me on Instagram or Facebook. I'll put it in my community tab. But yeah, so this week has been kind of crazy. This is the first time I've actually been back in the saddle of real estate all week long. It's been because I've had family there. So, yeah, if anybody knows, there's a reason why you move out of your parents' house. Just
what was it like going through a hurricane? Because like in California, I'm in Sacramento. We don't have any natural disasters really in my area, and I've never even been close to an area that has hurricanes. So what was that like being in your house during the hurricane? Do you go in a basement, or how does that even work? I have no idea.
It's kind of like one of those things you hurry up and wait. Like, it's coming, like you have.
Scary.
Yeah, like you have to get all your supplies because you're not sure how long you're going to be out of electricity or whatever. You got to make sure you have batteries. One thing I will say is don't do scented candles because nothing's worse than having competing scents around the house. You have vanilla in one room, strawberry in the other room, and then it's
that's hilarious.
After day 3, you're like nauseated from the smell. One of the smartest things I ever did living in South Louisiana was so I was being through.
Oh man, we can't hear you.
Oh,
you're frozen, unfortunately.
Again?
I think you're good now. Yeah. Here's what it's the after effects of a hurricane, I guess, with the internet.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah, maybe we should like they call it dropping packets. So they'll like have a packet of information, then it drops a bunch of them.
Maybe we can do one word answers with Kristina.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So get a whole house generator. That's my piece of advice. Get a whole house generator.
So that clicks on automatically. A hurricane comes, your power goes out, and it goes on right away.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But if you flood, it doesn't help. If you flood, that doesn't help. So you just, don't live in a flood zone. Don't live in a flood zone. And you just, and you always have flood insurance. Always. It's so cheap. Flood insurance.
How much is flood insurance in Louisiana? In my neck of the woods, it's around $50 per month.
$50 a month. Ours is $650 a year.
$650 a year, so the same price.
Like, I don't even wouldn't do it. It's like so inexpensive. I even said to my husband, I'm like, there isn't a time in my life I won't have a flood insurance, no matter where the heck I live. You never know what's going to happen. Weather's crazy.
It's out of our control, right?
Yeah, the weather's crazy.
We have some people saying good morning. So boiled nuts.
That's one of my subscribers. I love boiled nuts.
Oh, that's awesome. So what's YREW?
Your real estate whisperer. That used to be my channel name. That used to be my channel name. And so they used to call me Rue with the Y being
I love it.
Yeah, so then everybody would calling me Guru. Like they would put
that's funny. Yeah,
U and then Rue. Tony Guru.
Well, boiled nuts. Thanks for joining on the live stream here. We also have a good morning. Get your game up. Good morning. Good morning to you. And we also have a Cynthia as well. Good morning from Los Angeles. Yeah, good morning. Talking about the housing market today and answering all your questions that you have. So if you guys have any questions, then please post them. So yeah, what's your take about what's going to happen in these areas where there's also these damages from the hurricanes? And you think that's going to affect the housing market there in your area? Because for everyone who's just joining, Kristina has a large following on YouTube, and she's an agent based in Louisiana. So just had a hurricane there, a few days ago. So I'm curious, like, how does that all affect your housing market in your area?
That's always kind of a wait and see. So right now we're like, it's the calm before the storm kind of thing. So like after Katrina, our area blew up. Like it was a really small town, but people lost so much during Katrina, they ended up moving here, transplanting here. But we've had the hurricanes since then, and it didn't really turn into that. But it always made the housing market freeze for a bit of time, and then it blew up. Like we had a bump in the housing market.
In the outskirts of the areas that were not as much affected.
Right. Like 2016, we had a huge flood. So a lot of people sold their houses that were flooded and moved to less flood prone areas. But those houses that had flooded had been remodeled, and people were willing to take that chance. So those people get out of it and move to another area, and then the other people move to a bigger, better house that is less flood prone. So
interesting. So what happens with their current house if they had a ton of damage and they're looking to move? Then do they, obviously get an insurance claim and then they rebuild their house and they just sell it, or what do they do?
You can do it that way. You can sell it as a shell of a home, and have somebody else pick it up. But most insurance companies, they will not total your house. I mean, there was a house that had water in it for like 6 months, and they didn't total it. They're like, it can be fixed. I'm like, ew, the mold damage with that. But apparently, I talked to a mold remediation company, and they're like, yeah, you can fix it. I'm like, really? Huh? If
there's water in your house for 6 months, you can fix the mold that would grow from that?
Yes. Yeah. So there's a whole process to it. Apparently I know nothing of this, but there is a process to it. But yeah, you can do it as long as the wood isn't rotted through. You can do it.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So those people that are been affected, they typically just either would just sell their house as is, or they fix it up and then sell it later, and then they buy a new place. Interesting.
Most people fix it up. Most people just fix it up and move on with their lives.
Yeah. Kabder Ashid, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but good morning from Seattle as well. Good morning. Well, good morning from Sacramento. Thank you for joining on the channel today. Yeah, please post your.
I want to know how to say that. There's a lot of letters in that. There's a lot of letters in that. I wonder how
a lot more original than Jason Walter, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of those in the directory.
It's definitely true. Well, do you want to talk about like the eviction moratorium? I mean, we touched on that on your channel when I was on your channel. Was it last weekend? I think it was. Had a lot of fun doing that, but I think it was 2 weeks ago. Okay, time flies when you're having fun, I guess. I get a lot of comments on my channel too, thinking people are thinking that foreclosures are coming the end of the year. And then once the moratorium ends, that's going to cause this flood of housing inventory. And then people are going to be wanting to list their houses because they are wanting to sell their house before their home prices go down. But yeah, do you have any thoughts about, how the eviction moratorium is going to affect our housing market in the US?
Okay. So I have a lot of opinions about this. Shocking.
We want to hear them.
Yeah. So in some cases, yes, there's going to be some people that are going to be selling their rental homes because they're tired of these deadbeats not paying their rent. Yeah. But in most cases, people are like, whatever, because rents have gone up exponentially. They're like, all right, buddy, you're gone now. That's okay. I can get an extra $400 to $500 a month and make up for the year that I didn't have. What people don't know, and they need to investigate if you are a landlord, if you haven't had people pay you for the past year, you need to get with the state because they have a lot of money, like an insane amount of money, and
millions and millions of dollars. Yeah.
Billions of dollars that was given to all the states to help landlords for the rent that these people hadn't been paying.
Yeah.
And it's only a thimbleful of that money's been used by the states. So you need to contact them and say, hey, I'm a landlord. I've had these tenants. They haven't been paying for a year. Where's my money? Show me the money. Now, here in the state of Louisiana, it's a lot. Again, like you have to do a lot of paperwork, but you'll eventually get it because, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So you have to be that persistent person to get your money. Just do it. Just do it, because there's no reason why you shouldn't get the money that was offered from the government for paying your offset of rent that you were supposed to get
loss of revenue there. Yeah.
Your loss of revenue.
Is there a percentage they pay? Like, do they say, hey, we're going to give you like 75% of what you were receiving? Do you have any idea what that works in Louisiana?
So
it varies by state, I believe, right?
It's market value. So whatever the assessed market value that HUD determines that the rent should be in that area, that's what you get. So either if it's over or under, you get whatever the HUD has determined is the assessed rental value for their home.
Well, I wonder why they haven't dispersed as many funds. I would assume, and we kind of talked about that when we had our live stream on your channel, with the state just being very, very slow, and then the complexity of applying for the aid can be very troublesome.
I just don't think I have enough workers. I just don't think, and this is like, this crap has never happened. You know, like it's just never happened. So it's like, what do we do? How do we do this? What kind of form should we do? No one gave them any framework to disperse this money. So it's kind of like, we're just going to leave it over here in the account until somebody tells us what to do with it. Because, I mean, I know we're supposed to do this and give that to them, but I mean, is there some kind of record we're supposed to do? I just don't think they know what to do with it. Honest to God. I think that's what it comes down to. And a lack of infrastructure to be able to disperse those funds. I think that's what it comes down to. But
yes, I imagine the state would have to hire a bunch of new people and then train them about how to respond to these requests. And maybe they have a hard time finding people to hire for that. Or they're not hiring enough people to do it. Hard to say. It's a mess. Well, Boiled Nuts has a question for you. Does hurricane insurance cover all the damage to your home? Thanks for the question, Boiled Nuts.
Yeah, so it is a deductible. Interesting, though, if you have a hurricane that comes through, and then a tornado comes through, they'll say this is hurricane damage and this is tornado damage. So that's interesting.
If your house is totally destroyed, from the hurricane,
they'll assess it. But you know, you just have your deductible that you have to pay, and then everything gets covered. There's some things you have to fight on sometimes. Like sometimes they won't cover your fencing. You know, like the fence around your house. The roof can be a challenge too, like because there was a time that they were just whatever, you know, just put a brand new roof on it. People took advantage of that. Then the insurance companies would say, well, we're going to send out our adjuster out there. If we feel that you don't need a new roof, then you don't need a new roof. Well, the insurance companies would say, you don't need a new roof, then you have a storm, and then all of a sudden that happened to my husband and I. We did the right thing. We called the insurance adjuster. They're like, no, you got another 5 years on this roof. We go to sell it 2 years later, and they're like, this roof is trashed. They're like, squirrels have been eating up around this area right here. And luckily for us, where the squirrels had been eating, the water was dripping into a light fixture, which I didn't know about, because it would have had a big stain on our ceiling, but it didn't, because it kept dripping into this light fixture. So yeah,
so you had a fishbowl on your ceiling, basically.
Right. So if you do have a storm, and you're concerned about your roof, do not call your insurance adjuster to make the claim for your roof. Call a roofing company, have them make the claim for you for your roof, because because they know what pictures, they know what pictures to take, you know, and they know what they understand the whole process with insurance companies, so you get your roof done. But then call the insurance adjuster for all the other stuff.
Well, I can see that it would work having a roofer come out there, because obviously he's gonna be more inclined to have the insurance company replace it so he can get paid to install a new roof, versus the insurance adjuster who just has basically the opposite in motivations, right?
Right, but you have to like they have to make it, like they have to check off certain boxes. Even with the roofing company, they can't just say, well, they need a roof. They have to prove it with photographs
Sure.
and drone shots and everything. Like, this is trash because of this. So that they're, of course, they're in the business to sell a roof, but they're also in the business to like keep you as a customer. So they're going to do everything they can to get you a new roof, which you want. Like especially around here, you want to get a new roof if you've had storm damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like the number one thing you want. You don't have problems with your house, right? And that is definitely to have not have any roof issues, because that just affects the whole structure of your property. Kevin Hawthorne, he's been a long time subscriber of my channel. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi, Kevin.
Kevin has some airtime on news channels. He sent me some clips, pretty cool, from local news channel in his area. And Boiled Nuts, good advice. Kristina,
he's my favorite nut. He is my favorite nut.
That's awesome. All right, so Samuel, here's a question. Samuel, yeah. Can you guys talk about how the New York City extended their eviction moratorium, even though the Supreme Court threw out the latest extension from the CDC? How is the state allowed to do that? Kristina, I'm going to give that one to you.
The state can make any law for themselves. They're not saying anything about this. The federal law is not telling the state what they can do. Like, they're not supposed to tell them what to do. We have federal laws and we have state laws. When it comes to housing, if for rentals, that it can be run by the state. So the state can do that. Like, I think even in California, they extended some of the rental moratoriums. I know that like in Seattle, they've done it as well. But I know that New York has a safety net for landlords as well. They're one of the states that have given the most money to landlords. So if you're having an issue and you are a landlord, Samuel, find out how you can get your money for the people that haven't paid their rent, because it is available to you.
Yeah, good answer, because the CDC, it seems like New York is one of the few states that extended it, into 2022. I think it extended until January of next year, I believe. Right. Which, if they extended another until March, that'd be 2 years with no eviction, with an eviction moratorium in place.
And I think that there's a misnomer of there's just all these people renting and not paying rent. There's just gobs and gobs of people. The percentage of people that aren't paying their rent is really, honestly, very small. It doesn't feel small to you as a rent. If you're a mortgage landlord that holds a landlord that holds a mortgage, then it feels like it's forever. But the percentage of Americans that are not paying rent right now is super small. And landlords are smart. And Samuel, I don't know if you're a landlord or not, but you're smart enough to know there's other ways to get out bad renters that aren't paying rent. It isn't just the fact that they've lost their job because of a pandemic. There's other ways to remove bad tenants. So, it just happens.
Can you tell us about that? Can you elaborate maybe on that for anyone who's a landlord on the channel watching?
Yeah, sure. So here, you can file like noise complaints if they have destroyed or any kind of destruction of property. That's you're not kicking them out because of the fact they haven't paid rent. You're doing it because they're bad tenants, period. Here in Louisiana, we file the eviction with the justice of the peace. So we did have to wait for the courts to open during the beginning of the pandemonium. So because they were closed for a while. Yeah, that's what I call it. I don't know if you know this, but you can flag that word for a long time, the actual word. So
I know a lot of people were saying the disease or the virus or something, and so in order to have YouTube not push up. I don't think that's really the case anymore. I've always said
at the beginning it sure was. It was awful. It was terrible because every time you even breathed it,
that's right. Yeah.
I said that the disease that shall not be mentioned. That's what I kept saying.
Yeah, I remember getting email from YouTube and saying that they're not doing that anymore. That was like months after they were being very restrictive with their videos.
Yeah. But now, but I still call it that because it's so crazy, the pandemonium.
Corona.
Yeah. So I totally lost train of thought on that, but
sorry.
That's okay.
We were talking about how do you, if you have problem tenants, maybe they're not paying, but you want to look at maybe other ways in order to get them out, so you can start having some revenue coming in again. So you were kind of talking about that. Sorry.
Right. And another thing is, like you can throw them out for various other reasons. You file that with the Justice of the Peace here in Louisiana to move them out because of XYZ. Another thing is you can actually talk to your tenants yourself. Like we did that. My husband and I did that. When this all started, we went to our tenant's house and we said to them, look, we know that this is messed up. Who knows what's going to happen? This is how much our mortgage is. If you can cover our bottom line, we aren't going to say crap to you. And then the mortgage moratorium came out, the rental moratorium came out like maybe
Forbearance,
2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. And I was like, well, they didn't even ask to not pay rent. So they did pay the bare minimum that we needed to cover our mortgage payment, which was totally fine by me. I mean, of course, I want to make money, but I'm not a horrible person. They got to the point where they just couldn't pay anymore. And so
nothing at all.
Yeah, they couldn't.
Wow.
And it had nothing to do with what's going on. It had to do with the fact that they had other problems. And so they said, we can't pay anymore. And I'm like, what are you going to do? They're like, we're thinking about moving out. I'm like, yes, but I think it's because I opened that door for them at the beginning to pay as little as possible, just so all of us weren't in bad shape and I'd lose my house and he would lose his house. And we gave back his deposit. The house was a total trash. I'm like, here's your money, just go, leave, that was it.
Well, yeah, at least they didn't stay there and then trash the house and then not paying rent. I mean, that could just be a nightmare. It's the key there, I think, is work with your tenants, and then you'll probably have a better scenario in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to compare our coffee mug sizes, though. It's definitely directly proportional to our subscriber count on our channels. It's so funny.
I like big mugs, and I can't.
You like big mugs, I kind of.
Yeah, I give these away occasionally. These ones.
That is ginormous. What does it say on it?
Your real estate whisperer.
That's awesome. That's cool. Alan Phelps, listening here in South Carolina. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. We also have Mahendra. Can we get some California housing market? Man, if I knew, had some information for you, I would definitely tell you about the California housing market. I am really not familiar with the market there. I assume, Kristina, you're the same.
Expensive.
Colorado expensive, man. It's all relative because in California, obviously, we're probably one of the most expensive states, and we have people moving from the Bay Area to like Denver, for example. But I know the home prices there have gone up tremendously. I just saw the with the S&P Case-Shiller home price index, and then in Denver, the home prices there are 98% higher than the previous peak from 2006.
Yeah. So when the wacky tobacco became a thing in Colorado, of course, then the home prices went bananas, right? And then they were thinking, well, it's going to come down now. Like now that there's other states doing it, it's going to start coming down. So every time that there's been a chance that prices would go down in Colorado, all they did was keep going up, and they've gone up ever since the legalization. And even people that live there, they can't live there anymore. They have been priced out of their towns because there's nothing for them to live in. So some of the housing solutions that people have come up with, even in places like Wyoming and Montana, is they have lots like open RV lots, so people could live in tiny homes and work in town. Because I mean, even though let's just say Aspen, Colorado, it's very expensive, but they need people to work there. Well, they can't work there because they can't afford to live there. So they come up with other solutions for people so they can work there and live there too. So it's interesting.
That's a huge problem. Yeah, that's especially these resort like areas, especially since this pandemic started. I mean, the resorts like or areas like Boise, Idaho, South Lake Tahoe, Mammoth Lakes in California, those areas have just shot up like tremendously. And I have a friend who lives in North Lake Tahoe, and he said that a lot of people are moving because they can't afford to buy a house. That's for sure. If you're waiting tables, for example. And then also their rents have gone up tremendously as well. A lot of people are converting their long-term rentals to Airbnb rentals. And so because they can get, 3 times as much revenue from their rental property. And so it's causing a really big problem. It's places like Hawaii, for example, too, where housing is so expensive and people have like 3 jobs in order to make it by. So
I'm going to tell you something pretty interesting about Hawaii. If you have somebody that's like a teenager, very young adult, and they're just kind of not like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So you can go to Hawaii and work at a resort where you live at the resort. Everything you get but it's only it's limited time. It's only limited work because they have a season. So let's just you only work for 3 months, but you collect a big chunk of change during those 3 months. And you get to live in Hawaii. So you take as many shifts as you can during those 3 months to collect as much money as you can, and then you go back home. So I know
I would be all about that if I was in my early 20s again. Huh?
Yeah. I wish I knew about it. No one told me. I would have done that. Totally. Like, who doesn't want to really? I mean, my God, that'd be awesome. My brother told my niece about it. So he's going to do that. And I think that's what's going to happen to a lot of these touristy areas. They're going to have to come up with something like that where you basically are letting these people live there for free. And you're paying them what the average pay would be for, let's just say, a server or whatever. And then you let them live for free. That's their bonus, for months.
Right. I think Hawaii came up with a thing during the pandemic too, where I think you had to volunteer, can't remember how many hours, maybe it was like 20 hours or 10 hours a week or something like that. And they paid you to live there for a certain period of time. It's kind of like Barbados did something kind of similar. So it's interesting. All right. So thanks for the question there. Hopefully answer your question in a roundabout way there, Mahendra. Cynthia, is the housing market, are there down payment assistance for teachers in California? That's a super good question. I'm actually not really too sure about specifically for teachers in California. In the market. What's that?
Aren't you in California?
I'm in California, yeah.
You should know this, Jason.
I definitely should. I honestly have not worked with too many people with down payment assistance, not because I'm not saying I don't know how to do that, but I just don't, since I don't have the experience with that. But I will say
a lender is a good person.
Yeah, lenders are good. So Cynthia, if you want to shoot me an email, jason@meetjasonwalter.com, I'd be happy to link you up with a lender who might be able to answer that question better. But
and they'll know the best programs too.
They would, yeah. And I'm just not like an expert in lending by any means. So yeah, again, you can shoot me an email, jason@meetjasonwalter.com. Yeah, good question. Sorry, I can't answer that. And then Alan's in, South Carolina.
They got some of that hurricane too. Like Ida went through Hurricane Ida went up through the south, cut across the whole country, and then up the northeast, it like slammed the northeast. They got tornadoes and flooding. I mean, in areas that never have flooded. First time in history.
Oh, really? Interesting. I didn't know about that.
First time in history, the city of New York got a flash flood warning. They've never done that. And there's like the subways are even flooded. It was crazy.
Wow. So by that time, it was a large tropical storm, I bet, right?
Yeah, it's a tropical storm at that point. But they're slow moving and they're big rain dumpers. So when you're not used to an area that gets 6 inches of rain in less than 3 hours, I mean, it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that would be in here as well. In Sacramento, we get about 19 inches of rain per year. So 6 inches in one day would be absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
So Theo B, can you buy a second home 30 minutes from where you live if it's in a nicer part of town? Kristina, you want to take first stab at this one? Ladies first.
I mean, that depends on your budgets. Like what is your budget? Where is your second home? Like that's almost like I always have this thing. It's called my crystal ball. I don't know your income. I don't know your DTI, your debt to income ratio. I don't know what it's like in your market. I don't know. Like, I mean, I would have to have a crystal ball to know exactly the answers. Even though I have a broken crystal ball. I have a crystal ball, but it doesn't really answer my questions.
You should make that crystal ball have a bunch of cracks in it. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. No, I like it though. Oh, I wanted it to make my eye big, but it didn't really work.
That's too funny. So Theo, yeah, good question. So if you're buying a second home, I guess is that you're going to be using it as a vacation rental, or you're going to be using it as an investment property. If it's going to be an investment property, then there's certain down payment requirements. So typically you have to put down 20 to 25% down to buy investment property. But you wouldn't be able to, I'm guessing, if it's only 30 minutes away from you, if you live in your current house, it's 30 minutes, you want to buy a secondary property, that's going to be your new primary residence, then lenders are going to probably have a hard time with qualifying you regarding that because it's so close to your current home. They'll probably think, hey, this person's really buying an investment property, not a new primary residence. That's my take on that. All right. So Samuel has a follow-up question. In response to trying to kick out bad tenants, is it tougher than other states because we are a tenant-friendly state? Good thing overall. I'm assuming you're in Louisiana, Samuel? Or I don't know which state.
And you're right, though, Samuel. It's going to depend on how your state rules are. I know California has the strictest rules against landlords when it comes to tenants. I mean, it's like an act of Congress to get somebody out of there that's a bad tenant. I mean, they've even made movies about it. Years ago, I remember watching a movie about a bad tenant that just like tore these people's apartment up and just made tons of noise and was really creepy. And he got to stay there forever because of California's tenant laws. And he knew them. The guy who lived downstairs, he knew what the tenant laws were, and he just liked to irritate. So, yeah, that does depend on the state. Some states are like, just go down to justice of peace and you can kick them out for having eyelashes. It doesn't matter. Just kick them out, you know? So yeah, it's going to vary from state to state. I think Mississippi has probably the most, landlord friendly tenant laws.
Interesting. Yeah. You're right about California. There was in the news, a couple who had bought a house I think it was in Riverside, California, which is in Southern California. And they, the sellers didn't want to move, didn't want to leave the house. And so they closed escrow. They must have had like a short rent back period, but they lived in the house for, I think it was over a year, where the new owners couldn't even kick them out, even though they just bought the house, which I couldn't even imagine. That'd be horrible.
They had a loophole. They fell in the loophole because they had the rent back in the way that California rules run. They were able to stay there without any penalty because of the because of the eviction
moratorium.
Yeah, eviction moratorium. Thank you. And so that they eventually did leave. By the way, they eventually left.
Did. Yeah, that made the news again.
They kept harassing him. There's like so many people were like, get out of the house. You don't own it anymore. And like that bothered them so much, being called out that they were basically shamed into leaving. But I mean, those people bought that house. They give them their house,
I totally agree. It wasn't because of a loss of income or anything. They were just kind of taking advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Good morning, Alan. Good morning to you. Absolutely. You're more than welcome. And then Alan says, hoping to see a southeast cool down. Any insight? I am not familiar with the East Coast, the southeast. What about you, Kristina?
It's one of those things that every time that we say it's going to cool down, and like you'll have a couple of weeks where it's like, oh, okay, finally we're getting less offers. And all of a sudden you have another 2 weeks where it just kicks right back up again. Yeah. Right now we're in a lull in the market all around the South. All through the South. But then that's always typical of this time of year because kids start school. Sure enough, if we didn't have a freaking hurricane, it would really start picking back up again. Even just the people are saying, well, what areas around there that don't flood? And so now they already know it's going to get busy again. I think with the extreme weather throughout the United States, because it's just made me think of it, I think more and more people are going to be looking for areas that are not prone to flooding, B, not prone to wildfires. You know, I think people are going to do a little bit more real estate shifting as well from all of this. I mean, they're even up in the Northeast, they were like saying, wow, this is crazy. Like, we never thought this would happen. So people are like rethinking a lot. This one lady's like, I'm not redoing my basement again, you know, because a lot of people take their basements and turn it into another, you know, another
space.
room.
Yeah.
And
Right.
No way. If this fills up with water again, forget it. And most people don't have flood insurance up there because who needs flood insurance? You know?
It's crazy. Yeah. I think that, especially for the people who have the work at home arrangements, and then some businesses have recently said, hey, you guys can work from home indefinitely. We're getting rid of our office space. And so those people that really have the flexibility to live virtually anywhere they want, as long as they have Wi-Fi access, that they can move to a more affordable area. We're seeing a lot of that in Sacramento from the Bay Area, New York City, but also other states
Austin too.
Well, yeah, there you go. All right. So yeah, thanks for the question, Ellen. Mark, hi from South Florida. Kristina and Jason, thanks for joining us this morning, Mark. Appreciate it.
So I have a brother-in-law, his name is Mark, but we're from New England, so I always say, hey, Mac. It's Mac. Hey, Mac.
Mac. Oh, is that how you pronounce it? Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Mac. Mac. All right. And Samuel has part two of his question about whether this pandemic seems out-of-state housing courts are doing their best to reduce evictions as much as possible. For example, a part of receiving or RAP money includes not evicting for 1 year. Yeah.
It's just each state when it comes to
varies by state. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to vary by state on what happens and how you get that money. I mean, that isn't a thing here. You don't have to. That's not a thing here. You know, Missouri's going to have different rules. A lot of my investors, by the way, if you're an investor, Samuel, a lot of my investors have pulled out of like some of the other markets and are dumping their money into Kansas City, Missouri, which in a million years, I'm like, why there?
Why Kansas City, Missouri?
I don't know. They know something I don't. I mean, they're smarter than I am. A lot of them were in New Orleans and Austin, Texas. They pulled out that money because they feel like they've capped out on those two cities, and they're pulling it and putting it into Kansas City, Missouri. No idea why. None whatsoever. I feel like they're just the kind of people that know stuff before other people know stuff. So whatever. Just thought I'd throw that out that.
I mean, I know in Austin, Texas, I think last time I read, it was the home prices went up there 42% in 1 year, which is incredible. So maybe they're cashing on their huge gains and buying like a multi-family property and cashing out their single family home or something like that.
Exactly. 100%.
All right, J Girl, she's a subscriber of mine. Thank you for your question and for watching the video this morning. Do you see interest rates going up next year? And if so, would it help cool down the housing market? Kristina, what is your answer to that one?
Yes. Yes.
So you believe that interest rates will increase next year and it will cool down the housing market, is that what you're saying?
Always. That always happens. Increase in interest rates always makes the housing market cool. I will say this though, we did have a small bump in the interest rates this year where they kind of went up a little bit. People were like, that's it. This is it. The market's changing.
Crashes. Yeah, exactly.
It's coming. We're crashing. What happened was all the people were like, oh, well, the interest rates are going up before they get too high. I'm going to go ahead and get a house. It actually made the market even crazier. Yeah. The lack of inventory is what the biggest problem in the housing market is. And even home builders are not building like they were. And they're charging out the wazoos. And some of them are taking advantage of this they don't care. They're taking as much advantage as they can.
We should make a separate video about that. I know we talked about that.
Yeah, it just will be interesting. We're never going to know the full effects of what this pandemonium has caused to the housing market for another 2 to 3 years when the dust is all settled. We're all taking predictions and estimations and past history into account. At the beginning of this, I was like, this is doomed. This is going to head for a crash. I was the first one to say it because I couldn't see how it could sustain itself. But what had happened over that pandemic was the fact that so many people got in that market with not kooky, ridiculous, dumb loans like we saw in the last housing crash. It's
Right.
all held up by cash. We have a lot of cash buyers fueling this market. And it isn't just corporations, it's literally individuals that are like, I'm cashing out my 401k to buy a house. I'm like, oh, okay, go you. All right, whatever, and that's the difference in this housing market. And we're not going to see numbers tank like we did in 2007, 2008. I know there's people that are looking for that to happen, but even to this day, there's so many people that are on, there's 1.6 million people still on the forbearance plan. They're scheduled to come off at the end of this month. And even the banks have said the most desperate people, they're actually restructuring their loans so they don't lose their home. So we're not going to see a flood of foreclosures that hit the market that would have caused home prices to tank like they did in 2008 once that market started turning. So,
yep.
Anyways,
I agree with you. Yeah,
I got on my podium. Sorry about that. Went on a rant.
Comparing like 07, 08 to now is like comparing apples and oranges. I always tell my my viewers that because of all the bad loans we had in 07. And now what I'm seeing is that we are having more cash buyers across the nation, also in the Sacramento area, where people are cashing in their record high, stock prices. But also, we're seeing a lot of people putting a significant amount of money down on properties. So 20% down, no problem on a $1 million house, and that's going to be further instilling the health of our housing market per se. Because back in 2007, you literally buy a house with 0% down payment. And then it's an adjustable interest rate loan. Yeah. I mean, it's as long as you have a phone bill, you're approved. So it's totally different. But going back to Jay Girl's question. So typically when interest rates do increase, you do have a housing market cool off, but it just depends on how much of an increase, right? So in January of this year, our interest rates got down to, what was it? 1.75. Was that 1.75 or 2.75? I can't remember. Drawing a blank. Anyways, record low at home interest rates in January, whatever it was. Sorry, I forgot. But then the interest rates increased to like 3.5%. But then home prices continue to skyrocket. So, and I think Kristina, you're absolutely right. With a lot of people going, "Oh my gosh, interest rates are 3.5%. I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a house because interest rates are going to keep on going up," and so that could increase further demand for housing. So it just depends on how much interest rates go up. And last time interest rates increased significantly up to like 5%, which is in 2018. And that really cooled off our housing market in my neck of the woods. So to answer your question, depends on how much they increase. But if it increases significantly, then yeah, it could cool off the housing market. That's my take.
There is a problem though. We have a financial divide in people with the amount that they earn from income, the cost of living, and the cost of housing. There is a good section of people which is getting bigger and bigger and bigger every time rents go up and housing goes up. Anything like the rent's crazy. So even if you wanted to rent, some people are like they have to get another family to rent with them so they can afford the rent because they work low income wage earning jobs.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, how come people don't want to work at McDonald's? Well, that's because they have to work at McDonald's, Taco Bell, and the dollar store in order to be able to afford their rent and to eat. And then they don't even have enough money for medical costs. So it's like we're in a very bad situation because there's not enough affordable housing options. There's over 7 million people that cannot find an affordable place to live. Those numbers came before the pandemic. So that number is going to increase exponentially. It's probably going to double, triple fold. We need to address it. That's why I talk about it all the time on my channel. We have to address this problem. There is not affordable housing options for people, whether it's to purchase or to rent. And I'm not talking about building like what they used to do in Atlanta years ago, where they build these houses that literally looked not even houses, they're apartment buildings, look like little prison cells. They were all cinder block all the way up. I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, you can't do this. You're making people feel like they're animals, So this needs to be addressed in a correct way. And we have tons of commercial buildings that can be used for affordable housing options that are going vacant because people are working from home, like shopping malls. I mean, there is a lot of real estate space. Turn that into affordable housing options. There's plenty of parking. It's already plumbed. Turn that into a house for a lot of people, So
It's an
anyway.
absolutely huge problem. I 100% agree with you. And I always tell people we've had this like K-shaped recovery where a lot of people have not been affected by this pandemic. Other people have absolutely done way, way better than they were before the pandemic. And then there's also people who have been very, very much hurt by this pandemic, which is very sad.
Mhm.
And so it's, in my opinion, further separating this wealth gap and the lack of affordable housing, just like you said, for something for to buy and also to rent. It's a huge, huge problem. And that's the number one reason why I feel, unless interest rates increase, why the housing market may cool off, with the lack of affordability becoming more and more of an issue as home prices increase. And then the wage is not increasing at that same level.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's my take. All right. So let's see. All right. No delay for days. What is stopping someone from very wealthy like Jeff Bezos from buying up all the current homes for sale in some city in the USA? What do you think, Kristina?
Oh, because he's already got to get somebody to like manage and take care of those houses. People like Jeff Bezos, they have a bigger picture. Why would they want to buy a bunch of small little single family houses when they can build a whole entire apartment complex? And that would be a, income earning property for them for eons instead of buying up little neighborhoods,
Yeah,
And
I hear you.
like the reason you see like hedge funds buying up neighborhoods is because they're selling each individual house as an asset to their individual buyers that are in the hedge fund. So it's like they're treating the housing market like the stock market. That's what hedge funds are doing. But people
Yeah.
like Jeff Bezos, they're not interested in single family dwellings. He's making hand over fist on all sorts of other adventures in real estate, not for the $250,000 house in Sacramento in the middle of Nowhereville that's turning into a rental unit. That's not his
Yeah.
interest.
I hear you. And I think there's some confusion out there too, because there was like a newer development that was sold to I think it was a hedge fund, but the whole purpose of building that development, and I don't recall where the area was, but the whole purpose of that
Conroe,
was
Texas.
what's that?
It was in Conroe, Texas.
There you go. The whole purpose of it was to build houses that were all going to be rentals, and they're going to sell it to an investor. So it wasn't like, I don't know, KB Homes have a new development in somewhere in Sacramento, and then an investor buys every single one of the houses. It was a product that was multiple houses that were sold to an investor.
But those companies, Blackstone, BlackRock, they are buying every single inexpensive home in a hot area like Austin, Texas. And they like, if you read any of the articles, they're obviously being like almost like they're saviors, because they're saving these bad neighborhoods and turning them into something that people would want to live there. Even though they're renting them out, they're saying they're making it a comparable affordable rent for other of other homes in the area, but they're upscaling it so that way you have good neighbors that live next to you. They have totally tried to wash this over like this is a great thing. This is a terrible thing. This is a terrible thing. We cannot have corporations owning all the real estate in the United States, because everybody on the planet knows, in order to build wealth for a young person, baby boomers did it. They earned a ton of wealth. Is through real estate, and a lot of it is a stepping stone. So if you're taking the cheapest, most dilapidated homes that normally young kids decide to like fix up and use that as a stepping stone to buy their next house, if you're taking that ability away from them, what are they supposed to do? I mean, like, you're not giving people options. The only option is to basically write a check out to Blackstone for rent, and they can increase and control the rent for years to come, because I mean, they're corporations. They don't care. They'll just,
No, it's for sure.
another one to sign up. So there needs to be a limitation of how many corporations can buy a house. I'm sorry. You can't have, let's just say in a housing development, and this is written in some of our HOAs, in our housing development, you can't
Mm.
have X amount more of rental properties. Like you can't, no
For
more than
single family
10%.
houses?
Yep.
Oh,
10%. You cannot,
interesting.
10% of the neighborhood cannot be rental homes.
Interesting.
They can't be. So the HOA controls that. So just
Okay, yeah,
FYI.
HOAs, yeah. So we have that for like condos and townhomes, for example, where they have to have
Exactly.
more owner occupied than rentals. But they had like
Exactly.
a blanket rule for the whole city or something. I think that would be a good thing to have, because I personally saw when I started my career in like late 2012-ish, early
Hmm.
2013, in my neck of the woods, was Sacramento area. We had all the private equity firms coming to our area, and Blackstone bought over 1,000 houses in our area.
Yep.
And what they did is they bought them all cash, often on the courthouse steps of foreclosures, and then they renovated them and they rented them out. And the rent they were asking for was way higher than what the surrounding area would typically allow. And so
That's exactly
basically, the
what
effect of it is
happened.
they just increase rental prices. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these corporations are not our friends, and some of these articles that are written, they really do make them sound like they're saving us. They're really saving us because they're really like upscaling these neighborhoods. So we have a more beautiful. Give me a freaking break.
Yeah,
You're not selling that to me because I know exactly what you're doing. It's all about the money.
of course,
Your
absolutely
pyramid
true.
scheme money. Your jerks, jerky jerks.
I think
You're welcome.
Christina, you're welcome, Cynthia. Um, all right. So then we have a question from On's Finest. Where do you see the Miami market being at in the near future? Just buy a new construction house. I don't close until January.
I don't
I
know
am
about
not familiar with.
Miami.
I don't either. I'm sorry, Ons. I'm not familiar with the market there in Miami either.
I will
Um,
say that during the crash, I hate to interrupt you because I do remember this because I lived in Florida at the time. During the last housing crash, they were the first ones to go way, way, way up in the high, and they were the first ones to go all the way down in the toilet.
yeah.
But that was
Right.
because they overbuilt
Oh,
tons
interesting.
of homes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
condos. They overbuilt. Right now, there isn't an overbuilding problem in Miami. So I think you're going to be fine. I think you're going to be just fine with your purchase.
I would say ons only buy if you have long-term time horizons. I always tell people this: have 7 to 10+ year time horizons where you're going to be owning the house.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if you plan to like buy the house and then you want to sell it in 2 years, then who knows what the housing market's going to be like in 2 years. So I would say just anyone buying, whether it's today or 10 years from now, just have long-term time horizons because we don't know what the market's going to be like in the short term.
I'm trying to look at his icon. Are those videos that he watches or movies
I
that he
think they're,
watches?
yeah, it looks like DVDs.
DVDs?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
On's Finest DVDs. I don't
Okay.
know.
I don't know.
uh,
Oh, I appreciate
appreciate it. Yeah, there you go. Oh, good morning from Elk Grove, Darren. Good morning to you, sir. Elk Grove is on about half an hour south of Sacramento, so really close to where I live. All right. It's Elk Grove.
Sacramento.
Well, nuts. I hear that San Francisco, many landlords refuse to rent out their properties because of the local laws. I haven't heard that. To be honest, in San Francisco, they have rent caps, which is
Mhm.
we don't have that in. Well, we have like a state run, but in San Francisco, they have really strict rent caps there, and so yeah, I'm not too sure about that.
I don't blame
Any
him.
idea, Chris? Yeah.
That movie that I was telling you about earlier, it's I can't oh my gosh, his name is at the front of my head who played in it. But it was in San Francisco that he was like taking advantage of
Okay.
these people. The movie, I swear it was like the early 90s, maybe late 80s. He also played Batman and he was also Beetlejuice. What's that guy's name?
Oh man, I don't know. I used to love that movie when I was a kid, though. I don't
Yeah.
remember his name. Oh man, what is that
Michael
guy's
Keaton.
name?
Michael
There you
Keaton.
go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Winner.
Yes. Damn, I'm good. Oh yeah, Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton was the bad renter, the bad neighbor.
Oh, okay. Got it. So funny. House Nick, we are seeing the square foot price of existing going down. Was pushed as high as 200 per square foot, now 160 per square foot. Seeing local builders doing small price reductions. I'm
Oh, I don't
curious
know
what
where you're
area
at.
this. Yeah,
That's
I'm
what I'm
curious.
thinking.
Yeah, I don't know what area that is. Um, Yeah, the local builders, it's interesting to see what's going to happen with that. In my area, we have long waiting lists for people who want to get new construction. But like you alluded to, Kristina, earlier, there's a lack of builders actually building houses that are actually for sale. A lot of them are just pouring foundations and just waiting out the craziness with the supply chain issues and the super high construction costs.
We still have supply chain issues.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
crazy, right?
isn't just the housing market. I just read that the car industry is having a huge problem because of the little chips that go in computers.
Yeah,
So they're
right.
like, we have to stop production on a lot of cars because we don't have all the parts for it. It's impossible to get them in. Like, what are people supposed to do? And then, like, I already knew that they had a huge problem with the used car industry because when the pandemic started, a lot of these rental car companies were like, "How long is this going to be for?" So
Yeah,
they
right.
panicked and they sold
Sold.
their
Yep.
fleet of cars, sold them, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted to travel again. They're like, "We don't have any cars." I was supposed to go to Texas, and they were going to give me a car that was a Jeep that was so noisy. I was like, "Oh my god, my feelings would have fallen out of this." I couldn't imagine driving 12 hours in this Jeep. But I ended up, like, fussing until I ended up getting a regular car.
Wow.
Yeah, we got this is the vehicles are gonna be a real issue if they can't get that straightened out in the next, like, 9 months. That's gonna be a real problem.
Yeah, I fully agree. That happened in Hawaii because I read that the rental car companies just sold off all their entire fleets because they didn't know when people were actually going to be traveling there. And then, of course, there's this huge demand for people who want to move or stay there for a vacation. And so people are literally renting out. Oops, you can't see me anymore, can you?
No,
Oh, man. Let's see here.
that isn't
But
me. I'm glad it's not me.
sometimes when I touch my USB for my webcam, it just goes out. So I'll get it fixed here. But
Sometimes when we touch. Yeah.
welcome to the Kristina Show. um, yeah. So what happened in Hawaii though is that the people staying there were renting out U-Hauls, and so that was their mode of transportation in the island when they were traveling around there.
You can't blame them. I
Totally
actually read
crazy.
that about that, actually. I've forgotten about that. There's a few other places that did the same thing, but we're not the only country that's dealing with this. Europe is dealing with it too, and Mexico is dealing with it too because they had sold off a big fleet.
Mm,
I forgot, I can't remember which country it was, but basically they hired a big group of mechanics to go in and buy as many like used cars as they could and revamp the whole thing. So that way they were like good as new kind of thing. So that's what it looks
wow.
like it's going to happen until we get enough parts coming in. But that's
Yeah.
the case for the housing. That's the same thing for housing. We just you think that you're getting ahead, and all of a sudden you're like, I need roofing nails, and it's not like you can run down to Home Depot to get it, because there is a certain kind of roofing nail, and it's the ones that you have zoned for your company, and you got to make sure you follow OSHA rules. You just can't just pick something off the shelf and call it a day, you know. So
It's a
yeah,
huge issue. And yeah, builders are definitely worried about that because you think about someone signing up for a brand new house and then it's not going to be built for 12 months. They really have to budget or get an idea, predict what the construction costs are going to be months down the road. And so it's a huge issue.
I'll tell you another thing that happened with a lot of construction is COVID. A lot of crews they all work together in tight, close. Like this happened. My husband worked for a roofing company, and he would have a crew. And sure enough, if one went down, then the whole freaking crew went down. And then another. I mean, like, and
Oh,
he had crews that were putting up there. But like sometimes if you have your leader that's out, some of them like got really, really sick. So it's like, what are these people supposed to do? They don't have the guy that runs the crew isn't there. He can't give them
right.
instructions. They don't know where to go. And
Construction
Eddie
halts.
just hired, yeah. So they had a lot of problems. They still have problems with crews not being able to be there because of the illness.
The illness. Yeah. I've seen that also for firefighters as well. There's
True.
a strike team who one of them got COVID and the whole team had to stop. All
Mhm.
right. So Chase has a question. What percent of your pre-tax income do you think your rent should be? She said, and they said, no, sorry, mortgage is what they meant to say. So, Kristina, what percent of your pre-tax income do you think your mortgage payment should be? So I think that's what Chase's question is.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I never thought, I don't look at it that way.
Yeah,
this is how I do it. Like, I look at the price of the house. I look at how much the rents go for in the area. I look to see how much it's going to cost me to fix it up. And then I go from there. Like, I'm not a numbers person. Like, that's why I sell real estate. I understand markets. I understand housing and construction. But when it comes to numbers, I'm like, here, lender, please help her. Like,
to be honest, exactly what I do as well. Yeah, because we're not my area of expertise, and so I always say, hey, speak with a lender. But the lender's going to tell you if he's meant mortgage, so the lender's going to tell you, hey, we want your debt to income ratio to be below a certain level. I think it's below 45%, 50%. But it's really up to you about how much money you really want to spend on your housing if it's below that too.
Well, I will do a little Google search real quick and see what the average percent of income is paid for people's rent. Just the average in the United States. What percentage do people normally pay in their income for rent?
And
this is going to depend on where you live too.
For sure, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So according to, this is funny. This question's from Chase, and according to chase.com, not his website, it says the 28% rule states that you should spend 28% or less of your monthly gross income on your mortgage payment. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Determine how much you can afford. So yeah, it's based. They're saying chase.com saying 28% of your gross income should go towards housing.
But you know what's happening, right? Because it has gone up so exponentially high. There's people that are literally paying 45% of their gross income just to have a house. That isn't for the electricity, for the water, for the grocery, like none of that. They're paying the majority of what they earn just to have a roof over their head. And it's like, to me, that's just mind blowing. And then all these areas that have blown up exponentially, like Austin, Texas, they also, once that happened, you also now have a huge amount of homeless people that has started sprouting up everywhere, because they can't find an affordable place to live. Do you know how they solve that problem? They arrest them. It's now against the law to be homeless. It's
in Austin, Texas?
In Texas, period.
Oh,
it's
didn't know that.
Against
wow.
the law to be homeless. And then they throw them in jail.
Crazy.
I know, but then because then you can put them in jail. Jails are for profit, and so they decriminalize a bunch of stuff so they can have criminals. They can make private prisons.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. We can't. You're currently frozen.
It's because it's not government. That's what happens. YouTube said blah.
Let's cut. It wasn't me. I swear I didn't do that. J-Girl thought there was a little bit of a lull in my state in Washington, but I guess not. Offered $60,000 over list, putting 75% down. That's a huge down payment. Excellent credit, and our offer was not accepted. See? Gosh, sorry to hear that. Yeah. Yep. And so when I'm making these videos about the housing market maybe cooling off, or just regular housing market updates, I'm talking about median prices, median numbers across the nation. So it goes to show how each market, each state, each city has a different housing market, and you could experience much different things than what the average is in the United States, as J-Girl has witnessed.
For the last 3 months, housing markets still have increased every month. Oh
man, you're breaking up, Kristina. I can't hear you, unfortunately, man. Are you? May try that again. I think it might have come through now. You're not frozen anymore.
All right. Maybe I should turn off my camera. Maybe I'll try that. Would that make it better? Can you hear me better now?
No, actually, it doesn't help. Actually, unfortunately.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
It's still breaking up a little bit. It's okay. But J-Girl, yeah, every market's different. And yeah, I'm sorry your offer was not accepted. I tell people over and over again, it's very challenging to be a home buyer over the past couple of years here, really. And in most markets across the United States, it's a seller's market where they have the upper hand. And so hopefully at some point we'll have more of a balanced real estate market. Who knows when that's going to actually happen. I know it's really frustrating.
Almost as frustrating as not being able to talk.
This is the effects of having a hurricane come to your house days before doing a live stream on YouTube. It's most of the time it's clear though, so it's totally fun. Darren, when's a good time to buy in the Sacramento area, Jason? Yeah, good question. I always tell people if you're looking to buy a house, it's impossible to have a crystal ball. Yeah. I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you. I would just say that, buy when it's right for you. Exactly. There's the crystal ball right there.
Yeah.
Buy when it's right for you. Make sure you have a stable job, have long-term time horizons where you're not going to you're going to be living in the house or owning the house for at least 7 to 10 plus years. And then even after you buy the house, make sure you still have an emergency fund in hand. I would hate to have someone, buy a house and use all their savings and then they have some sort of issue with the house. They don't have enough money to fix it. So I'd say just buy when it's right for you and don't have a real estate agent tell you when to buy or sell a house. Anything you want to add to that, Kristina?
Not all real estate agents are the same. So if you don't like what you hear, if you don't like what one real estate agent is saying to you, or they make you feel uncomfortable, go to the next one and look for honest ones. Like I tell people all the time, I'm the worst real estate agent on the planet because I want people to make the best decisions. And I'll tell them, don't buy this house. You're going to regret it. Because I explain why, the comps aren't holding up. This is overpriced. I mean, I tell them.
I literally just had someone yesterday reached out and say, hey, I want to look at this house, super interested in placing an offer. And I run comparable sales and found out there was one unit where a cash buyer bought a unit that was like $100,000 more than the comps would support. And I literally told them that I think the house is completely overpriced just because a cash buyer was willing to pay $100,000 more than the going rate doesn't mean you have to. So I think it's, in my opinion, as a real estate agent, we should be more of advisors and not home pushers.
Oh, I know. But there are people like that. And I really don't like them. They're just, and I used to say, real estate agents get a bad rap, but after being in this business, there's a reason for that. Yeah, there's a good chunk of real estate agents that are really just not good people. Like they're really horrible, disgusting, leech sucking, exactly what you think people. There's no doubt. Like they're terrible.
No, it's totally true. I always tell people that the barriers into real estate are so very, very low. They have a wide range of people you work with. I mean, to get your real estate agent license in California, it's a complete joke. You have to take 3 courses. I think at times you can only have to take 2 if you can not have to, if you get an exemption. Anyways, and then the test is like probably the easiest standardized test I've ever taken in my entire life. And so it just goes to show it's so easy to get your license. And so some people may be more motivated by a commission check rather than helping people.
I'm not.
I'm not either.
I would make a lot more money if I was. Even with my referrals sometimes, like even sending out referrals, I'm like, oh, you know what? This really, I'll send it to the agent. I'm like, look, it would not be a really big commission check for you. I don't need a referral. Just go ahead and take it. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I said, just pay it forward to something in the future.
That's very cool of you.
Of course. Like, what am I going to do? Like, $100,000 property. I should not be getting a referral fee for that. That's ridiculous.
I agree with you. I absolutely 100% agree with you. Corporate investors also go bankrupt if they bought bad investments, which will not retain value. I'll let you take this one, Kristina, first. And there's not really a question here, but
well, corporate investors also go bankrupt if they bought a bad investments, which will not retain value. But the corporate investors also know how to offset bad investments. And they'll just, when it comes to housing, that's one of those investments that somebody else is going to pick up the mess. They do it all the time. That happened after the housing crash last time. There was a lot of corporate bought homes and they didn't know what the hell they were buying. And a lot of them were crap. And so they would bundle these houses up and then sell them to another investor. And
Yep.
that they always do that. Real estate is like one of those things. Corporations know exactly what they're doing. They know when they're buying junk real estate, and they know when they're buying a good deal.
Yeah.
They don't care. It's not like you and me, you know?
That's true. Something I would add to this is that a lot of the corporate investors or anyone who's an investor buying property, a lot of them are really looking for their return on their investment as far as like their monthly income coming in. So if their home values go down, if they plan to hold for a long term, it doesn't really matter.
Well,
I mean,
a
I
lot
think
of
that
corporate investors. Go ahead.
I was going to say home appreciation is kind of like icing on the cake, but really more people buy properties in order to have a good positive return, in my opinion.
Corporations will do this thing too, though, that they'll take properties that they never intend on renting. They're just holding the property, hoping that it will increase in value. They do absolutely nothing to the property. They just hold it for a few months and then they sell it. They do that all the time.
All the time.
So
Yeah, they package it up with a bunch of other houses and stuff. Yep.
yeah, they don't care.
Coinster 2.225 was the lowest I saw it. Yeah, thank you for that. For some reason, I was drawing a complete blank about the lowest rate.
I thought it was like
according to
2.35 here. That was the lowest I saw.
yeah,
I
it depends on the lender and if there's like points paid or not, and then the state, I would imagine as well. But according to the Mortgage News Daily, I think it's 2.75 that was set in like early January of this year, if I'm not mistaken. But it doesn't mean you can find rates for less than that. All right. There are affordable housing options. People just don't want those. All right, we got a bunch of other questions. Let me kind of go through some of these here. All right, Coinster, are most new houses getting larger? It seems like the traditional starter home is no longer a priority for developers.
Right.
Kristina, you want to take a stab?
Yeah, because I've talked about this on my channel.
I bet.
So what incentive does a builder have to build a smaller home when he can build on the same exact size lot a house that's double stacked for triple amount of money for more square footage?
Yeah.
If I was a builder, I want to make as much money as I can on that little tiny piece of property. So of course I'm going to build it bigger. The government needs to step in and incentivize builders to make smaller homes. This is exactly what they did after World War II. They incentivized builders to build small, affordable housing in areas that were like, they bought up big farmlands so they could have people that came back from the war and young families start their lives. And they built all over the place, up the Northeast, all over that. They made huge neighborhoods. Huge neighborhoods with these little tiny little houses. Now they're called craftsman style houses and they're very fancy. They need to do that same exact thing again. You know, not anything like 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, small houses, small lots, treed areas. Those neighborhoods are beautiful now. That's exactly what they need to do again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the building costs and high demand for housing, of course, it makes more sense for a home builder to build the biggest house they can, more or less, on the lot. And that's why the lot sizes, at least in my area, are very, very small in general for newer houses, because the builder gets paid a lot more on a larger house than a small house on a large lot. Yeah, but something definitely needs to be done. I totally agree. 7, you two are my favorite realtors to watch into. Oh, awesome. That's great. Really love the advice you guys give. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate that.
Jason, my people on my channel love you too. Like,
oh, really? That's good to hear.
I got a lot of emails saying that you were one of my best guests. So I'm going to try to harass you to have you on more often.
I would love it. I love doing these things. Love having conversations with great agents like yourself. And then I always tell people too that, you know, I make videos in my office with my cell phone, and just me talking to my cell phone is so much more fun talking to another person and also interacting with our viewers too. I love it. I find it I really do enjoy it. And I do need to do more of these live streams.
They're fun, man.
You do them every Sunday, right?
Every Sunday at 3:30. Every Sunday at 3:30 Central Time.
Central Time.
Yep.
So anyone who's not subscribed to your channel, I invite them to subscribe to your channel, and also hit the like button on this video if you guys are getting any value out of this video too. Hope you guys are liking this video.
We always say we smoosh the like button on my channel.
Smoosh it. Oh, so you don't smash it in
We don't
Louisiana.
smash it, we smoosh
Oh,
it.
okay. All right. Well, if you guys want to
Smoosh
smoosh it or to smash it, feel free to do so. We have
'cause
90, almost 100
said
people watching right now.
I said that smashing the like button sounds so aggressive. Just sounds so aggressive. We're gonna smoosh it over here.
How about just tap it or lightly
Yeah.
touch it?
Yeah, let's just caress the like button.
That's too funny. Cooper good morning from San Diego. I love San Diego. I actually spent a summer in Del Mar in San Diego when I was a young buck, and holy cow, I enjoy myself. I love San Diego. So thanks for tuning in. Pacific Heights is what you're thinking about. Pacific Heights. Maybe as a neighborhood in San Francisco. Maybe that's what you're referring to, Les and Heidi. East Coast of Florida. Sorry, there must be a follow-up.
Yeah. They was wanting to know about the housing market up at on the
there
east
you
side.
go. Yeah. Right.
I talked about that.
You definitely did.
I covered your date, made you look good.
Girish, thanks guys. You learned a lot through your videos. What is your take on the Austin and surrounding areas? My motivation: high prices but low mortgage rates. So thinking of taking the plunge. Kristina.
Right now, I don't even know how to put this without getting people hot, but I'm just going to say it. I think that the whole state of Texas has a big magnifying glass over it. They've passed a bunch of very unusual laws for what we're not used to here throughout the country. And I think that, like going against people that are homeless and other very polarizing type of laws that is going to create some problems. I don't know what those effects are going to be. I talked to somebody that's in the tech industry, and they're like, the hardest thing about keeping people is talent. So if you create things that don't align with tech people's talent, they're not going to come there. And he said this could cause a big issue. So I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I'm questioning. If you talked to me 3 months ago, I wouldn't have been so leery. I would say go ahead, but now I'm concerned. I'm concerned for the whole state.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. The other thing I would add to that is that because Austin has seen this absolutely insane home price appreciation, it's something to be cognizant of when you're thinking about buying a house. And then on top of that, high prices, low mortgage rates. Low mortgage rates is one of the more main reasons why home prices are so high right now. And so in my opinion, I wouldn't get too caught up with wanting to buy because low mortgage rates, because those low mortgage rates and low housing inventory is a reason why we have high home prices. Eventually, interest rates are going to increase and the housing market's going to cool off, and perhaps home prices will go down. So I would just say, buy when it's right for you and try not to time the market. Not saying you are timing the market, but that'd be my advice.
Everybody tries to time the market. Honestly, my whole thing is like, I just want to get somebody the best deal possible. And then for the past year and a half has been the most frustrating year and a half because there wasn't the best deal possible for any buyer. It was like, just get into a house. And it really honestly gave me so much anxiety, the amount of money that people were shelling out for a house. I'm like, these people are going to hate me 2 years from now if these prices tank. They're really going to hate me. We're never going to know the full repercussions of this for another couple of years. We're just not going to know what it is. We're all guessing. Even the highest of high experts, all I can tell you is what I think I know.
Well, there's certain things that everyone wants to know what our housing market predictions are, if they should buy it right now, which I totally get. But the reality is that there's so many things outside of our control, right? With how many people are going to list their houses for sale? Anyone's guess. When are interest rates going to increase and by how much? Anyone's guess. So it's impossible to predict what's going to happen here. Ramon, you guys are awesome. Good job. Thank you, Ramon, for supporting us and watching us this Saturday morning. How are you doing on time, by the way, Kristina?
I'm going to have to jet in a minute. I am going to have to
go. Okay, well, let's get to some other questions here because there's quite a few of them. But yeah, we will let you go because you're a busy lady and you're going to do your live stream tomorrow.
Yes.
So people join. You should definitely join her or the live stream tomorrow.
Join me. I didn't know it was coming apart. Sorry.
Oh.
Stupid.
So yeah, Ramon asked about Nevada and Arizona. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the markets there so much.
Javier is Javier Verdana.
Is Javier? Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah, Javier Verdana has a YouTube channel. Probably has a lot of insight about that.
Vidana. Vidana. Yeah, Verdana.
There you go.
Verdana. Javier.
Oh, so Jennifer Lego. Good to see you, Jennifer. Jason, please use a later subject that conflicts with Javi. You were excellent at responding to all comments. Thank you. Oh, okay. I didn't even know. I don't know when he does his live streams. I really don't pay attention to other
That's
channels.
So funny. I was just said his name. I really didn't even know that comment was coming up. That's so funny.
That's so funny. Yeah, I didn't know if he does live streams on Saturday mornings. This is actually my first Saturday or weekend live stream, other than when I joined you a couple weeks ago on your channel.
Join me. Didn't know you were coming apart. Sorry.
All right, AK, come on, like. Yeah, please like the video if you're getting anyone. Only 31 likes. Yeah, let's get that to 100. Thank you for your support there. All right. Both of you, Wendy, thanks for supporting our channel. I would appreciate that. Les and Heidi, Las Vegas housing market still running extremely hot, including the weather. Love to understand you guys. Thank you so much, Les and Heidi, for your support. Really appreciate that. I know Las Vegas housing market's been going up like crazy.
Yeah, and Las Vegas was one of those markets in the last crash that got overinflated really bad, as bad as some areas
for sure.
In Florida.
They dropped big time, especially in Phoenix as well, and a lot of places that it shot back down very quickly.
But it's not going to happen the same way because of the amount of cash. It's just cash. So anyway.
True. You guys are great. Thank you, Linda. She's a subscriber of my channel. I appreciate your support. Would you be willing to ask Scott Walters to participate? He's interesting. I'm not familiar with Scott Walters.
He's a newer one. I started watching him just recently. I don't know much about him though. He's a newer to the YouTube sphere.
Got it. Tap the like button, you guys. Yeah, I appreciate that, Linda. Don't overpay. I think we're almost here at the bottom here. To my favorite real estate people. Thank you, Kim and Eddie. Appreciate your support. Thank you for joining us.
They're all in love and stuff and kissing.
That's a great avatar.
I love that.
Any Sacramento area people here? I know we had Elk Grove. I don't know if anyone else from Sacramento is. I obviously live in Sacramento.
JC Smith looks like a realtor. I'm sorry. That picture like screams, I'm a real estate agent. JC Smith, are you a real estate agent? Because you totally look like a real estate agent. That avatar just screams, I'm a realtor. Look at even the professional lighting.
Yeah, actually, it's a nice photo. To say the least. He could be a real estate agent. I don't really know.
Gotta be.
Well, anyone else have any questions? I know, Kristina, you need to wrap this one up.
I do.
But it looks like we don't have any other questions. But everyone who's watched this video, if you haven't subscribed to Kristina's channel already, definitely do so. I highly recommend. 127,000 subscribers, unbelievable. And you do a live stream every Sunday. I think is really, really cool. It's something I probably should incorporate in my channel. So yeah, anyone who got any value out of this video, please hit the like button and check out Kristina's channel. And with that said, have an awesome weekend.
Have a super mega awesome day. Have a super mega awesome day.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.